It's one of the most important races in America, and it could decide control of the U.S. Senate. Tonight, Ohio businessman Bernie Moreno wins the Republican nomination.
And so we are live in Westlake tonight near Cleveland, where Moreno gave his victory speech just a short time ago. Meanwhile, 2 congressional seats are up for grabs in November, the nominees for Ohio's 2nd and 8th districts.
And the presidential rematch is official. Former President Trump taking on President Biden for a chance to get back into the White House. Former President Trump tonight collecting the votes you see on your screen right there. 79% of the vote. Interesting, Nikki Haley has obviously dropped out, but still more than 157,000 votes and 14% with nearly all of the votes counted. Meanwhile, for the Democrats, President Biden, an easy winner with 87% of the vote. So again, the rematch is set for November. Today's primary could play a huge role in the future of each presidential candidate's campaign. Thanks for joining us here on this primary night. I'm Mike Dardis.
And good evening to you. I'm Cherie Palillo. So we have team coverage for you tonight all across the state of Ohio, from the U.S. Senate to the U.S. House to police and school levies. But first, again, we want to get you those U.S. Senate results tonight.
So it was the 3-way Republican race for the U.S. Senate. The Trump-backed Cleveland businessman Bernie Moreno comes out on top. The polls said it would be close. It was not. Moreno, a blowout win over State Senator Matt Dolan, lagging behind almost 20 points there, and Secretary of State Frank LaRose a very distant third. NBC calling that race for Moreno about 8:45 tonight, a little more than an hour after the polls closed across Ohio.
And WLWT News 5's anchor Ashley Kirkland live from Westlake tonight, again outside of Cleveland, where his supporters celebrated tonight. Hi, Ashley. I think I still hear the crowd behind you.
Guys, the music is still going here in Westlake, Ohio. It's a few staffers from Moreno's camp just here celebrating the victory that they had tonight. And for Moreno's camp, this is not just a celebration of beating out the other 2 candidates. This is really about beating out that old guard Republican status quo that we have seen in politics, according to Moreno's camp. Now Moreno will forge ahead to November, where he'll face incumbent Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown and try to beat him for that seat that's long been held by Sherrod Brown. And Moreno touted his America First agenda, talking about securing the border, making America a more energy dominant nation, and also promising to restore general law and order. Moreno also, of course, thanking President Trump for his unwavering support, for his love of this country, he says. And he also says he wants to see if Senator Sherrod Brown will hold as closely to his party's presumptive presidential nominee, President Joe Biden.
I wear with honor my endorsement of from President Trump. I wear that with a badge of honor. Because under President Trump, this nation was safer, it was more secure, we had prosperity around the world, we had generationally low interest rates, and we had generationally low inflation. Under Joe Biden, everything is objectively worse. Here's what I wonder. I wonder whether Sherrod Brown is going to wear with honor his 99% voting record with Joe Biden.
And also, Moreno thanked Senator J.D. Vance for his support, as well as the voters that voted for him tonight, and his team, his staff, who are still here celebrating tonight this victory that they have gotten with the Moreno camp. And he's saying that this is a new opportunity for this new leadership in the Republican Party, guys. In Westlake, Ohio, Ashley Kirkland, WLWT News 5.
Ashley, despite this being a contentious, very contentious race, I understand that Moreno heard from both of his opponents tonight.
That's right, Cherie. He spoke to Matt Dolan shortly after the race was called, and he was able to talk about their conversation in his victory speech tonight. Now, a few moments ago, about an hour ago, I saw Frank LaRose posted on Twitter that he was also thanking his opponents, including Bernie Moreno, in this race. He says that their mission is the same, which is to retire Sherrod Brown in November.
All right. Ashley Kirkland live for us tonight. Ashley, thanks so much for all of your coverage. And you know, with November's matchup now set, U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown already sharing this statement with us here tonight.
The Democrat writing in part, quote, "The choice ahead of Ohio is clear. Bernie Moreno has spent his career and campaign putting himself first and would do the same if elected. Elections come down to whose side you're on, and I will always work for Ohio." And by the way, you can read his entire statement right now on our website, WLWT.com.
All right, so as we said, State Senator Matt Dolan called Bernie Moreno earlier tonight to congratulate him in tonight's victory.
And WLWT News 5 anchor Chris Jacobs live near Cleveland, where the Dolan camp watched those numbers come in, and the margin kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't as close as people were expecting it to be, Mike, but this hotly contested race coming to an end tonight. Matt Dolan speaking a little earlier this evening. He conceded the race to Bernie Moreno. Of course, the atmosphere here, as you can see, they're kind of tearing down right now. Certainly not as lively as it is over in Westlake, but some Dolan fans did come out to offer their support. Moreno started to pull away with this one about an hour after the polls closed, and Dolan was leading some polls as recently as 5 days ago, but Moreno hosted a campaign rally at the Dayton airport with former President Trump this past weekend, and it looks like that may have been the boost he needed. Dolan even saying as much. Again, Dolan spoke a little earlier this evening, but the main point of his message was one of thanks. He thanked his family, supporters, anyone who offered a listening ear really to his campaign. He says there's been a lot of talk, though, about a divided GOP, and his message for the Republican Party is one of unity going into November.
I think we were a little disappointed in the turnout, but look, we ran a race where we wanted to present a case to Republicans to say, you know, if you want somebody who understands the operations of government, wants to go to Washington and actually get things done, you know, we just didn't get it out to enough people.
Yeah, so at this point, the race for November is set. Bernie Moreno on one side, incumbent Sherrod Brown on the other, and that'll be the next chapter for this political season. Reporting outside of Cleveland, Chris Jacobs, WLWT News 5.
Chris, thanks so much. Secretary of State Frank LaRose really struggling in the polls the last couple of weeks, and it was the same tonight.
A bitter pill to swallow, coming in third in this hard-fought race. WLWT News 5's Karen Johnson is in Columbus live right now, where LaRose spoke maybe 30 minutes or an hour ago. Hi there.
Yeah, hey, a little bit of a different vibe here in Columbus than where Ashley is outside Cleveland. LaRose's party, which was upstairs, wrapped up kind of early. There's just a few bar patrons now here at the Grandview Tavern. But LaRose's message to his supporters, to his family members, to the public, it was short and simple. He said he did call Moreno before arriving here at the tavern. He said, "We have a country to protect," and even though he didn't win, the mission is the same. The mission is to beat Sherrod Brown. He also shared a message that he had told his daughter Ellie.
Just now, as I was giving my daughter Ellie a hug, I told her, we don't only take on fights that are easy. We take on the fights that are right. And I knew that this was going to be a difficult fight from the beginning, but I'm not somebody that ever backs down from a challenge. And so we poured our heart and soul into this fight, and I have no regrets.
And LaRose called it humbling to travel around the state of Ohio and meet the folks of the state. Reporting live in Columbus tonight, Karen Johnson, WLWT News 5.
And Karen, thanks so much. Just minutes after the polls closed across Ohio, former President Trump was announced as the Republican winner in the state.
Yeah, an easy victory, of course. All of the other candidates dropping out before today after losing in other big primaries. Former President Trump collecting, as you can see here, 79% of the vote to win the Ohio primary easily, despite though dropping out of the race, 2 weeks ago. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley still collecting about 14% of the votes tonight.
A lot of times there's drama in the presidential primary in Ohio. Not today. As you can see, President Biden easily winning Ohio. On the Democratic side, he was also virtually unopposed. So President Biden, 87% of the vote. And again, we say it over and over, but that rematch in November is set from what we saw 4 years ago.
And a crowded field here, a dozen candidates vying to fill Representative Brad Winstrup's seat for Ohio's 2nd congressional district. 1 Democrat, but 11 Republicans.
Yeah, Winstrup announcing his retirement after 6 terms. Small business owner and prosecutor David Taylor emerging from the madness and all the campaign ads. He's the winner winner moving on to November, the general election against the Democrat Samantha Meadows. O'Hara and Kidd, second and third. By the way, a little while ago, I spoke with Congressman Winstrup on the phone, who says he plans to take David Taylor around the district to meet people and experience the sites he got to know for 12 years. He says former U.S. Senator Rob Portman did the same for him.
And WLWT News 5's Rachel Hersheimer joining us live from David Taylor's watch party, where they are feeling good, no doubt about it, Rachel.
They absolutely are, Mike and Sheree. They are feeling really great heading into November. This is a really big moment for David Taylor. He owns a family-owned concrete business. He's a prosecutor, and now he will be taking on Democrat Samantha Meadows in the general election in November. And there weren't a lot of polls predicting how this race was going to turn out. Everyone was a little shocked how close it really came down to those three candidates right there. But David Taylor was able to pull this one off. Right behind him tonight in the race was Tim O'Hara, the former drill instructor. Taylor raised, according to the AP, $1.7 million. Taylor managed to pull off the victory tonight against 11 Republicans vying for a spot for Ohio's 2nd congressional district seat as Brad Wenstrup retires. And we spoke with Taylor right after the AP called the race and declared him the winner. He was in shock. It has not sunk in yet for him that he is one step closer to being in the United States Congress. I also asked him what he wants to do for the people in this district in Southern Ohio. Here's what he said if he wins in November.
Well, specifically here in District 2, we have a very underserved community. We know about a lot of the big national issues, so I'll skip to the ones that are here. It's a broadband desert. It's a cell phone desert. 10% of the population in Benton County doesn't have running water. They don't have an urgent care, much less a hospital. It's a tremendously underserved population because they're proud, hardworking people. They're not a squeaky wheel. They invented the phrase "make do," and they shouldn't have to.
And David Taylor has a lot of family here, including his wife, his 3 daughters, and we also just spoke with his mother. They are very proud of him, and he says he is looking forward to that November election. He hopes if he wins there, he will represent the people of District 2 right here in Southern Ohio. Reporting live tonight from Claremont County, Rachel Hersheimer, WLWT News 5.
All right, Rachel, thanks so much. And in the race for Ohio's 8th congressional district, incumbent Warren Davidson winning the GOP nomination easily tonight. He's going to be facing off once again against Democrat Vanessa Enoch on the November ballot. Enoch won the vote over Democratic challengers David Gelb and Nathaniel Hawkins.
WLWT News 5's Lindsay Stone joins us now as our team coverage continues live from the Butler County Board of Elections with more on this race. Hi, Lindsay.
Hey guys, yeah, somewhat of a deja vu in November, seeing Davidson and Enoch back on the ballot facing each other. You might remember that Davidson won re-election back in 2022 after defeating Enoch. And tonight I spoke to him just a few minutes after learning he had secured that victory tonight. He, spoke about this really being a team victory. And I asked him how he feels going up once again against Enoch. Take a listen.
I was frankly rooting for somebody else. I think I've seen most of Vanessa Enoch's material, but it'll be interesting to, connect again. And, we clearly have a different vision of what we should be doing with our government. And there's more to it than she wants more government and I want less government, but they're wildly different perspectives.
And we did reach out to Enoch's campaign, but she did not respond to our request. Again, they will be going head-to-head on the November ballot for the 8th Congressional District. Live tonight in Hamilton, Lindsay Stone, WLWT News 5.
Lindsay, thanks so much. It's not just Senate and House seats up for grabs tonight either.
Yeah, voters also deciding on very important issues on funding their local first responders. Let's go to Colerain Township. Police Department was hoping this would pass. It would raise $6.6 million per year to help them hire more officers, and obviously it is looking not so good right now. 55 to 45% against, with nearly all of the votes counted there.
Up in Warren County, one of the big talkers is the Kings local district and the bond happening right there. They're trying to build a new high school because of overcrowding, they say, and want to show you the results tonight. The bond issue passing there, and we'll bring you the results here in just a moment. There you go, 53. So it was a tight race still, but 53% for the Kings bond issue. So a lot of parents and staffers up there in the Kings the Kings School District, rather, very excited tonight to finally see that pass. You can see other levy and bond issue results scrolling at the bottom of your screen or on our website. Go to WLWT.com.
And this is only the beginning. A lot of big races across Ohio tonight, teeing it up for a high-stakes November.
Yeah, and so our WLWT News Flash John London here now to break down tonight's results and also has some insight into the potential impact here. It was interesting tonight, John. I saw a lot of people on social media saying, okay, good, we're done with all of these ads. And I said, oh, no, we're just gearing up to leading into November. Yeah,
and you heard Ashley talk about it a little bit, although turnout was low tonight. It turned in the direction of Trumpism, and that's really the bottom line takeaway from tonight's primary results. This was a battle over who calls the shots for the state's GOP in 24, Trump and his MAGA Buckeye base, or old-line Republican establishment types like Governor DeWine and former Senator Portman. They backed Matt Dolan. Trump endorsed Bernie Moreno. The Republican Party has a clear understanding tonight about the continuing influence of the former president. Except for Hamilton County, Southwest Ohio went for Moreno. You take Butler County as an example, where LaRose campaigned just yesterday. It's politically red, and Moreno had 55% of the vote, more than Dolan and LaRose combined. Claremont County, which is the largest of the 16 in the 2nd Congressional District, Moreno polled well over 50% and well over the combined total of his two opponents. Southeast Ohio was all Moreno. LaRose had the lead in Scioto for a while, but that didn't last. Moreno led by 10%. Dolan was leading in Hamilton County, Hardin, Cuyahoga, and Geauga counties, but that was it. And here's how it shook out in the final week to 10 days. LaRose had no traction or major endorsements beyond Sheriff Richard K. Jones. Dolan had a surge, plus the support of the current governor. Moreno had what political analyst David Niven called the most important asset in the race, the Trump endorsement. And as you map out the results, county by county, that still matters.
Turnout very low, as predicted, John. Earlier at 6 o'clock, I believe you did a live report, and you were talking about, hey, maybe Dolan had a chance because Donald Trump's already wrapped up the Republican side of things. So you wonder, if turnout was low and we still saw this Trump impact, could it be even greater in a general election in November?
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, there is this talk in Republican circles about whether this was a true test or not. There's no question that if Trump faced a serious contest in this primary, the turnout would have swelled. But Republican leadership will tell you that you played the hand that you're dealt. Had Dolan managed to gather more momentum and win this, the headline would have been about a setback for Trump in Ohio. So conversely, Moreno won almost every Ohio county. The Trump effect resonates, and most pundits believe he will win Ohio for a third time this fall.
John, what about the projections for the fall in November? And what does Moreno's win tonight really mean for the strategy for Democrats moving forward?
Well,
in the
I
next
think you saw, Cherie, tonight, the low point of the 2024 voting. The high point is going to be in the fall. The NAACP President Joe Mowry said tonight 75% turnout, maybe higher, come November. And keep in mind, although Ohio's no longer the bellwether, no longer the battleground, it could decide which party controls the Senate. And there are Democrats who are rejoicing that it's Moreno who won tonight because they believe Sherrod Brown will have an easier time beating him, and Brown has amassed, as you know, quite an ample supply of cash to put those ads on in November.
And that's going to be really interesting in November because Sherrod Brown obviously has quite the track record when it comes to elections. He's been ahead in all these polls when you see him matched up against any of the three on the Republican side. Sure. But now you have this lead up to November, and as you mentioned, this all-out war that you're seeing on the national level between the two presidential candidates. It could be a real challenge. It could be a very interesting race.
Senator Brown says he expects this will be the toughest race in the 17 years he's been in the Senate.
No doubt about it.
All right, John London in tonight. Thanks so much. Rest up for November. We got a long way to go there, John. Thanks so much for your insight tonight. And remember, you can find all of tonight's election results at the bottom of your screen and on the website, WLWT.com, or the free WLWT mobile app.